Hey everyone! Thanks for joining us on Asking for a Friend, a podcast for women created by New Hope Community Church. The phrase and hashtag asking for a friend is used in sarcasm after asking an embarrassing question, indicating that it's so awkward it must be asked under the guise of a helpful friend. This discussion group was born out of a desire to talk openly about things that are often considered taboo or stay hidden in general, but especially in the church. Statistics show that the issues we will cover affect women within the church as much as those who don't consider themselves church-goers, so let's talk about them. The first and very simple purpose of this group is to let women know that they are not alone. Across social media and even in person, we always show the best of ourselves, leading us to believe that nobody else has the same struggles as we do. This is such a lonely feeling and only leads to discouragement. This is a lie that we hope to expose by the time our discussion is over. Also, studies show that one of the reasons current generations don't consider going to church is that the church is not open to messy discussions and believe that Christians think they have all the answers. The second purpose of this discussion group is to show that this group of women admits we don't have simple solutions to life's questions, and we recognize that we never arrive, but will be working through these issues during our lifelong journey. The third purpose of this group is to give practical suggestions and spiritual counsel to others based on the experience of our guests and the resources we've put together. Specifically, we will recommend resources from Right Now Media, a video resource library called the Netflix of Bible Studies. For your free access, text Right Now space NHCCMN to 41411. As we listen to one another's stories and are bold in sharing our own, we can create a community where we are all fully known and fully loved. Because this is a safe space and the issues are sensitive, we will not be sharing the names of our guests. If you have questions about a particular guest or story, please contact us and we will connect you. All right, today's session is called One Body, Many Parts. The topic is on personalities, how women can understand and support each other. The verse that I picked out is 1 Corinthians 12 through 14. Just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For we all were baptized by one Spirit so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free, and we were all given one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. And there's a few Right Now Media resources. All the ones about women for women's ministry were really good. So I have a few. One is Bad Girls of the Bible. And I think a lot of people have heard about that.
That's old. It's been around a
while. Yeah, so the book is cool, but the lady who speaks is Southern, and it's like hilarious. But the woman at the well.
Yeah. Is it
I'm blanking on. Yes. Curtis Hicks.
It's so Southern. But the one on the woman at the well was so cool. I guess that's the longest recorded conversation between Jesus and an individual was the woman at the well. But I love. So Bad Girls of the Bible is one. But other resources that I'll put comments, put links in the comments. We're going to talk about Myers-Briggs type indicator. We're going to talk about the Enneagram test, and then we'll maybe sprinkle in, but you can look more yourself into Strengths Finder, love languages, and spiritual gifts. Mm-hmm. And I like knowing all of those about myself, just because they kind of work together. It's fun to see across all of them what your trends are.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to start off by saying, of course, this is from a Christianity Today article. Of course, like any self-assessment tool or personality test, there is a danger in making specifically the Enneagram more than it is. It is simply one useful tool as we journey toward understanding who we are, who God is, and who we are in relation to God. By itself, the test doesn't have much to offer, but when combined with prayer, Bible study, and other spiritual practices, it can be extremely helpful. Mm-hmm. So, I think we're just going to start by doing a quick rundown of what do these even mean. A lot of people have never heard of them. I learned about them in college as a psychology major. But I think we're going to just do a quick rundown. And can you talk, Emily, about how you've used this in your job? I think you did a training or...
Yeah, so we did, I don't know if we have that one listed, but so 5 Voices is another test. There are so many. And that one takes the Myers-Briggs, so the 16 personality types, and then it breaks it down and simplifies it into 5 different categories, which is really great because when you're thinking about trying to remember them all, remembering yours and then 4 more is a little bit easier. Right. And you can kind of find the different trends within each category. So when you're sitting in a meeting with people, you can listen to them and you'll start to hear like, oh, I'm hearing this value come from you. You might be, one of these or whatever. So that one's fun, and I'm actually going to be certified in it in the next couple months. So if anyone has any questions,
yeah,
let me know.
So that's 5 Voices.
The 5 Voices, yeah.
And then, since we're okay with saying names, do you want to say your name?
Yeah, Emily Nordic, and I'm obviously on this Facebook group, and you guys can send me a personal message. Love to exchange numbers, do a Zoom call, whatever. So.
Yep, cool. And had been going to the Isani campus when we were prior to COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID.
All right.
Yeah.
You want to give us a quick rundown?
I can.
Right.
So there are, let's see, okay, so Myers-Briggs, so going back, and those are the 16 personality types. So there's there's 4 different categories, and I've labeled them as energy, thinking, and then what you're leading with when you're thinking, and then how you organize. So, starting with energy, there's the letter E and the letter I, so that's the extroversion versus introversion. So extroversion, you're very expressionate, you're very active, enthusiastic. You're kind of that person that walks in the room and really wants to go and talk to people, and you're really comfortable meeting new people. And the opposite end of the spectrum is the introvert.
Which we found out we all are.
I was going to say
Sitting
we're all
here, we found out we all are.
Yep.
So you're that person that's probably going to be at the party, and you're more of the receiver. So an extrovert would probably walk up to you. You wouldn't necessarily walk up to that person. Not that you couldn't. So you're receiving, you're more contained, more interested in intimate conversations, reflective and quiet. So introverted versus extroversion. And then just to say too, and we were kind of talking about this before, is that it's really kind of on this spectrum.
Yeah.
So you can be super, super extroverted or super, super introverted, or you could be somewhere in the middle. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm an omnivert. Ambivert.
Yes.
Does this scale put you on us?
Depending on the test you
on the
take.
test?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think there's some that.
Because I think the test I took put me on
Yes.
a scale
It
on
put me
where
on a
I
scale,
was,
too.
and like some of them I was like, whoa, way
Yeah.
over here. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So it's kind of
Right.
cool when you have that,
Yeah.
because you see it, like how strong you are. And or,
Yeah.
I don't know if strong's the right word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so important to know, because when you're reading through it and you're like, this, like, I match up with this, this, and this, but none of these. And that would probably mean you're somewhere on the spectrum, and so
Yeah.
you can relate to both.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So, okay, so I call that category energy because if you're extroverted, you're going to be out there and you're going to gain energy from meeting new people. And if you're introverted, like all of us, you're going to gain energy from like sitting in your quiet place, reading a book, sipping tea if you're like,
And buy a heater.
yeah.
It's
next
the
year.
winter anyway. All year round.
Yeah. Speaking of being alone, I've literally been playing solitaire recently. I taught Gracie, and now I'm like addicted to solitaire. Anyway.
So fun.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Downward sloping.
Being alone. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
How do you
yeah.
gather energy?
Yep, energy. Okay, so then the second category is thinking. So that's the S and the N on the Myers-Briggs indicator. That's the second space. So sensing versus intuition. So let's start with sensing. If you are sensing, you're going to be one of those, they call it like in-the-box thinkers. So you want concrete, realistic, practical, and traditional. So you're thinking inside the box and kind of perfecting that box too, I like to say. And what do I want to say? Like, you're definitely not boring if you're in the box, because it's a good place to be. We need people that are in the box. If you think about like our government system and how wonderfully it works when it works, you know, you go and you get your photo ID, and they've got all the paperwork there for you, and everything's very regulated. Those are all the sensing people.
Yeah.
And
shout out to Sue Radzi.
Thank you. And then on the other side of that is that's the intuition. So you're that imaginative, abstract thinker. You like concepts, theories, and anything that's original. So you're that out-of-the-box thinker. And to put that in perspective, you're probably the one that like invented the wheel. You're like, this round thing I'm gonna put it under here and it's just gonna go. And then the sensing person is like, okay, I see your round thing. Yeah, and they're like, let me like put processes around this and speed limits and we're gonna have stop signs. So that's your thinking.
I like that.
And where you kind of fall in there, again in the spectrum. That one's funny because I'm very much an intuitive. So they're all like, oh, the crazy abstractness. I'm like, that's, yes. All right, so moving on to the third category, and that's, I think the best way I'm able to explain this is that's kind of like what you're leading with when you're thinking. So you go...
Decision making.
Yeah. So you have the thinker versus the feeler, so the T and the F. So the thinker wants logic, reasonable... they're questioning things. They're kind of those critical facts. Yeah, they have to have facts. I think that's the biggest thing to know about thinkers. If you're talking to someone who has the thinker and you're trying to like get them to go your way, give them the facts. Works every time. No. And then there's the feeling. So then you have the empathetic, compassionate, accommodating, accepting, and tender. So a good example of this is if you are late for work and your boss is a thinker, they're going to say, what are the rules? You are 5 minutes late. That means you have, you know, a mark, you know, on your resume or whatever, your record.
Card. Your record.
So that's the thinking boss. And then, okay, you come in to work and let's say you have a feeling boss. The feelings boss is going to go, why are you late? And you could say, well... you know, I had kids that were sick. I had to bring them to the babies or wherever, and I'm late because, you know, this, that, and the other happened. And the thinking boss is going to say, okay, I feel like you have a really good, you know, explanation. You're obviously, like, not just sleeping in or being late because you're late for a reason. So I'm going to, like, let you go on this one. So that's the contrast of the thinking versus the feeling. You're putting into context of work, of course. But that thinking is going to say, like, okay, everything has to be fair to everybody. You know, these are the rules. Everyone has to follow them. And then the feeler is going to say, well, I see what you're saying about the rules, but there's exceptions because, you know, we have this compassion for people who need... you know,
like the rules, but there's always an exception in the rule.
And I'm an F, so I'm always like,
there's always an exception.
Yeah, there's other reasons.
Wendy says, what are facts? Just kidding.
Hi, Wendy.
I love it.
Last category.
I know what you are, Wendy.
We would get along. The last one is the organization. So that's the J versus P, or judging versus perceiving. So the judging is that you're systematic, you're very planned, you're early starting, scheduled, and methodical. So if you're thinking about working on a project, you are probably that person that, or you might be the person that, like literally plans it all out. Okay, so on day 1, I'm going to get all these tasks done. Day 2, I'm going to get all these tasks done. This is my husband. Day 3, we're going to do all of this. And they've got it planned out until, you know, this day we're going to end. There's like a little bit of wiggle room in there just in case. And then there's the perceiving, which is like me, the opposite of my husband. And I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. Totally. Yeah, like even for this meeting, I'm like, I'll just talk and it'll go well. Versus, you know, I have some notes, but it's very...
I was just talking, it'll go well.
Which it is.
You're doing great. You're right.
But I think some people can kind of relate to that, is they're like, we'll just see how it goes. You know, it'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think you see this very much when you're planning a trip or like vacation or whatever.
Yeah,
that's how I always think of it. Because I'm like, if we go this way, we can see this. and then we'll go and we'll do that, and Brian's a J too, but the other type of person's like, let's just drive,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'll make a playlist, and they're like,
Yeah.
we'll listen to the radio.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I was telling Emily earlier, I was a 50-50 J and P, so I can go back and forth between the two. And you were saying I'm a pressure J, so explain that, because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, so that brings us back to like the spectrum. So you could be a total J where you have to have everything in order, or your total P where you're like, I'm not planning anything. And what you're saying is that you're right in the middle. And that's kind of that pressure prompted one where you need that deadline and the pressure of that deadline
Love
to
deadlines.
get you going.
Yep.
So if someone has something like kind of floating in the air, like someday we'll get this done, for you you're like, but when? Because it's not gonna happen. Like it just isn't gonna be on your priority list.
Right.
So
Ever.
yeah, because you've got other things you're planning.
When I'm done with this, I have to go home and write a post that's due at midnight. So there's
I'm there
pressure
with you.
pumping.
I know. Something to do tomorrow. I was wondering about the, and maybe we'll get into it, but when you see yourself change through,
Oh yes.
time with it, and I know the Enneagram says that your number doesn't, your core number doesn't change, but they talked about how you change.
That's so funny. We
And-
just had a guest online say, I used to be a P, but I'm more J as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
That's me too.
Yeah.
And I would say
Out of necessity.
It is.
well, and when you are maybe married to the opposite letter, sorry, you say number. You learn to flex, I think,
And appreciate
that opposite, and give a little bit more. So maybe
You better, or there's trouble.
Well,
adaptability and flexibility.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, I'm guessing that's normal. That's a
Totally.
Yeah.
but you might still score kind of in your heart of hearts,
And I
like
think,
what you would prefer.
I think Myers-Briggs
Yeah.
is like a
I-
core response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your natural inclination. Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put it. Your natural inclination is to be more, this
This
side or
side.
this
Yeah.
side.
Kind of like
Yeah.
in perfect world, what would you?
And when you take
Right.
when
What
you
would
take the
prefer?
free Myers-Briggs test, I think it says answer quickly,
Yes.
kind of, or like don't read into it too much.
Don't
Go
think.
with your
Yep.
gut and
Just, like, go with the
that's
first
me.
choice.
That's me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I've tried
Which
to
I think is
manipulate those
helpful.
tests too, just to see, and it's still I still kind of get them. Anyway, sorry. Keep going.
Oh no.
I'm also ADHD. Is that in
What?
there?
Yeah.
That's the shiny things test.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no. But yeah, we have a few other people saying that they're a pressure P.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pressure P's.
Pressure J.
Pressure
right?
J.
Oh,
would be-
pressure J.
Pressure prompted J.
That's what we are.
So you need that deadline to get your plan.
Is that right?
Mhm.
Pressure
You know.
prompted J. From
So I'm
I'm
thinking
a
of what I am.
A pressure prompted J. So
P is the
I'll only
spontaneous.
be a J
Yeah.
with that
Oh,
deadline.
I see.
Otherwise,
I see.
I'd be
Got it. Sorry.
very.
P all the time. P.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Came out right.
Okay. I'm going to be apologizing throughout this whole interview.
So Myers-Briggs was my first introduction to anything, and I like it more than Enneagram because there's 16 types instead of the 9. But with the Enneagram, you have the wings, which is interesting too, and we'll maybe talk about that. But yeah, but it was so fun seeing the description, and the one Myers-Briggs site gives you kind of a description of your type in work, in a relationship, as a parent, you know, in those different categories.
Yep.
So it's really fun and really eerie to be like, that's me, that's me,
Yep.
that's me
Yeah.
too. And it's just
Yep.
like kind of refreshing, like, oh, there's a whole group of people out there like me. But then to go deeper and understand, how do I apply this knowledge
The Enneagram does that
to
too.
life? Yeah.
Now too, which is really cool.
Yeah?
Like, they'll do in your job, and even I saw something like in specific jobs. I think they were looking at, but then they talk about in relationships and spiritually,
Yeah.
and so it is cool.
Oh.
I like the use of the Myers-Briggs for like team building, and that's
Yeah.
probably how you primarily
Yeah.
use it. I had to do a I don't don't think it was a Myers-Briggs, I can't remember which one it was, but assessment for a previous job. And then the manager did not want to see anyone's answers. And so it was like, I was excited because I was like, hey, we're doing some team building. I'm going to get to know my coworkers and we're going to like maybe fix some problems here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dysfunction. And then she was like, that was for your personal thing. I don't want to see them. You don't have to share them. And it was like all of the potential was just thrown in the garbage.
Yeah.
Aww.
It
And
could have been a really big growing point.
yeah, it could have, especially because like with that whole sitting around the table for a meeting, you could see how the dynamics would be like just brought to light.
And then you can appreciate each other a little bit more.
Have a little more
understanding and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have some of the benefits of personality inventories is identify your own strengths, help you understand others better, what drives them, inspires them, worries them, give you valuable insight to your stress reactions, grow and appreciate other individuals, deepen relationships with others, and then I put down 2 ministry placement, training, appreciation. I know Sue is very intentional on like the ways that she thanks people, and Bev Pettit used to be too. Like, this person wants a phone call, this person would love a note or a gift. So kind of goes hand in hand with love languages and helping people see where do they fit in ministry and things like that.
That's a great point.
I do like the love languages too.
Me too.
Yeah, the love language is a great tool as well.
I've tried to manipulate that one too.
The love language? I know, me too. It's gifts. It really is gifts.
Come on.
We have a question saying, do you think it's possible to be different depending on your work versus your home life?
Yes.
Like, at work, if you're under a lot of pressure, then at home you're like, I don't want to have a to-do list. Like, don't give me any. Well, an introversion and extroversion for sure. Yeah. Like, when I was here on Sundays, had to talk to everybody. I really enjoyed it, but I was literally like, nobody talk to me for 15 like when I get home. Like,
just 15?
Totally alone.
Okay.
I know. I was gonna say that's kind of a little bit.
No, but like nobody talk. Like, keep the kids away. Like 15 minutes. I go curl up in my corner of silence. But So
I think when you're focusing in
introversion, extroversion.
If you have to use extroversion a lot, and then you come home, you can maybe go back to your
right.
Or if you have to be very deadline at work, maybe at home you don't want to utilize that tool at that time.
Even the thinking versus feeling. So I work in a very corporate environment. And in the segment that I work in is in insurance, so it's very much about facts and what are the concrete answers. So at work I'm very much having to be a T, having to push myself to be a T, where on the spectrum I am all the way on the feelings side. So totally different. And sometimes I think too, like if I had a friend that would come over and we would kind of just chit chat and hang out, and then like someone that would like come and like see me at work, and like I feel like I'd be this totally different angle of myself because I don't use those feelings as much at work because that's just not what we're focusing on. So
I feel like it's good to know yourself. If you're having to be on opposite ends of the spectrum depending on work and home, you might be in a wrong job. Like, if your preference and your joy comes from being a certain way and you can't be that way at work, maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know.
That's a good thing to bring up.
That's a good
thing to
It's
bring
something
up.
to think about for sure.
Because when you first wanted to volunteer, it was like helping connect with people and go gather testimonies of people and all that. But your job was very corporate. And I asked you, I was like, are you very like literal task type of person, or are you very social, whatever? Because what you do and what you said you want to do don't go together. So I don't know. To me, if you hate going to work and it goes against who you are, maybe it's not a great job for you. I don't know.
Well, and also, I don't know. That's interesting. But I also think of like maybe you want to get outside of your box too, because I'm a nurse and maybe I don't want to be the nurse in another realm. Maybe if like I do that a lot. But I mean, that's a little bit different of a career because I I appreciate being asked about
to be an
like
extrovert.
kind of being the person of like, oh, I'll ask Candace because she, you know, knows kids and issues.
Right.
Rashes.
Right.
It happens.
There's a lot of nurses are extroverts.
Right?
Yeah.
But
It's probably pretty
it runs the
variety.
gamut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Oh yes.
Right. But
That's the interesting thing I think about like professions.
Mm-hmm.
You can get all types of people.
Yeah.
And that's the whole cool thing about like a team builder approach is like all can kind of offer a different thing at the job. You wouldn't want all certain people running something. I don't think it would be productive or efficient.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
Even, like,
Because you're missing a whole
instruction,
vantage point of something.
You need creative people even when you're building a house.
Yep.
Or,
Right.
Yeah.
And you need it in intricate jobs, like even like if you think of surgeons or parts of I mean I'm in the healthcare area, but it's like no, we're gonna crash and burn if it's all certain types of people because things change and you have to be able to
So true.
adapt
Yeah.
and be creative and so
And sometimes to the opposite of what you were saying, sometimes if you hate your job or something, maybe that is an indicator you're not in the right career, but sometimes sometimes you want to be able to feed off of that opposite or like push yourself outside of your boundaries. I know there are certain personalities that like to be pushed and like I don't always want to be boxed in because I'm a F. I always have to be doing something that's F related.
Yeah.
Right. I want, like you were saying, I have to use my thinking skills. You know, or pushing. So sometimes I want to be pushed. So it's kind of just like that's where the Holy Spirit comes in. And listening to
and wise counsel and
Right.
all that kind of
well
stuff.
I don't know what the Myers-Briggs if it pushes out. So I've heard for Enneagram sometimes they'll put you'll see these types as
Certain
this
careers.
in this oftentimes, but they're trying not to put it in the box, but you can
They
see
mention
them.
it like
So I don't know. Did you see
like
that?
this type.
Like is it there?
INTJ is called the architect.
Oh, they do
right.
have
So
those
they
names.
say-
That's right.
yes.
That's
career
the test I took. I
career
remember that.
fits might be this and this and this and this.
Right,
you know,
right.
suggestions. But there's
That's right.
all types of people in
Yeah.
every career. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Because some are like more of like the servers or the helpers.
Yep.
I don't remember all the types, but I remember
Yeah.
that now.
Yeah, there's like the actress or
The
the
advocate.
Oh,
the
the-
advocate.
don't remember
the-
that
I'm
one.
the advocate or the
Yeah.
Oh,
counselor
yes.
or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a performer.
Performer, that's what it
Performer.
is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're super fun.
The mediator.
The performers are I want to be a performer.
Yeah. So
Like
someone just put the link to the Myers-Briggs test in the comments.
Okay.
It's the 16 personalities,
Yeah.
Yes.
and then
That one it's really detailed too. So.
Yeah, that's a good
it's
one.
free.
Mm-hmm.
And it's free.
That's a good
Yep.
one.
That's nice.
Should we move on to Enneagram?
We did want to say one thing
Oh, yeah.
about the job real quick is that I'm an INFP and I'm in a very corporate-y, like the opposite spectrum or end of where my Myers-Briggs types would tell me where to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a struggle and it's one of those things where you're like, not every day is great.
Yeah.
But if you are in something like that, and probably this falls more with people who are really creative, is to find your creative outlet. Have a hobby,
Right.
whatever you can do. It doesn't have to be painting. I don't paint.
Yeah.
But and I've actually just been
Writing
getting
or something,
writing, or I've been getting into floral design. Pottery is really fun, but just finding somewhere where you feel like you can
Yep.
get that
Yeah.
and kind of it's almost like feeding yourself that creative
Yeah.
that creativity, because that's kind of really what carries you through, because
Yeah.
it can be hard if you don't have that
Yeah,
outlet.
That's such a good point.
That's really good.
So
Yeah. That's good.
That actually feeds right into the Enneagram because there is an Enneagram type that is creative, and they say that too. Like if you're not actually creating, like
Is that a 4?
it's it can create lots of like extra stress.
My sister's a 4.
So yeah, so and that's what I think I've seen with that.
Bringing
It's like
beauty
you
into
gotta-
the world, I
yeah.
think, is kind of the
You gotta be
gist of it.
creating somewhere, and if you're not,
Yeah.
then it might be a sign of unhealth. You're in a state
Yeah.
of unhealth
Yeah.
versus healthy. So, okay, rundown of the Enneagram.
Yeah.
Let me find my thing here. I'm going to start with type 8.
Why?
Because if you don't start with the 8s, they leave the room.
I'm trying to see if anyone watching, if I can identify as an 8.
No, it's type.
Are you trying to give a message of some sort to anybody in particular in this room?
I have a friend.
No, I know who's an 8, but that's not.
A friend who is not watching now, but will be later. But we've talked about the struggles of being a Christian 8.
Oh yeah,
and a Christian female 8.
Mm-hmm.
So
right,
that's
a lot
fun.
of-
So well, as we
those
go
are
through,
called the challengers, correct?
Wendy says, "Guess my number."
Oh, is that
She's
what
a
this
4?
note? This
Do I know
panel's
it?
gonna
Is she a
guess
4?
Guess my number.
Are you a 4, Wendy?
She might be a 9. I don't know.
Boy,
I don't think she could be a 9.
Peacemaker?
She might be 9.
Let's
or
see.
a 4. I don't
9,
know.
a peacemaker, easygoing, receptive, reassuring,
can't say it
agreeable,
yet.
complacent.
Okay, sorry.
We don't tell the 8s who they
You're
are.
ruining Candace's whole spiel.
All right, 8s. Here
No,
you go.
a lot of times if you listen to people who describe it, they start at the 8 and then they go around.
Oh, funny.
Also, there's connections between sets of numbers, and it's 8, 9, 1 is a grouping. So sometimes that's helpful, but we don't have to get.
Yep.
too
So you've got your
detailed.
main
It
type.
can get kind of
It
complicated.
can. So
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
like,
So
but
there's your main
very
type,
I wouldn't
and
get
then
too
there's
into that.
wings. They're called wings.
I wouldn't even get into wings,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, if you're super
because-
interested in this,
Yes.
it's
But
fun.
at the first go, don't worry about
Yeah.
wings.
Mhm.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You'll learn about it, and if you want to.
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably wise just to start with
Yeah.
the numbers.
All
Yep,
right,
that's
8s.
what I did, and I have been
Right.
thankful.
8s. Here you
No,
go.
no. They're the challengers.
We love you, 8s.
Okay, so the thing with the Enneagram is you can all do the same behavior, but all have a different reason for doing it. And the
Motivation.
Enneagram is not about behavior; it's about your motivation underneath. So it's not. And I mean, it doesn't break down behavior. It looks more at what's going on underneath. So every number has a core fear, desire, and weakness, and longing. I guess I wrote that down here. So for an 8, they're known as the challenger. Their core desire is protecting themselves and those in their inner circle. So they are known for being self-confident, decisive, willful, confrontational, but because of
Their motivation is
they can be some of the fiercest advocates for justice, for things, and it doesn't have to be huge justice, but even like, my friend's in trouble, I'm
Yes.
gonna
Yep.
go get them. So their core fear is being weak, which is why you get this strong, like, presence. Like, they come across strong because they fear being weak, powerless, harmed, controlled, or they fear that, in someone else. And then, so a core weakness is, and it's called lust or excess, basically constantly desiring intensity, control, and power, pushing themselves willfully on life and people in order to get what they desire. So their core longing, which is the message they long to hear, is you will not be betrayed.
Sure.
So that's an 8. So
Yes. Usually seen as like the worst one to be.
well,
You
that's
said you were
the
an 8.
thing. I think
yeah.
there's.
I was
I'm
like,
gonna
you're being
talk
so
about
mean
that
about
in
it.
a
Yes,
little bit.
we're
I'm
gonna get
an
to
8.
that.
No.
That's good because, I mean, we didn't go there with Myers-Briggs, but people can with any assessment tool of like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, you must be that.
Yeah.
Like just that whole like,
The
Oh,
stigma.
you're a
Yeah.
you're a with a what wing?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's me.
That's always
so.
But
But
you
there's-
want an 8 as a friend because
Oh yeah.
They got
they
you
will
back.
protect you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They will fight for you when you
Yep.
don't fight for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So then 9 is the Peacemaker, and their core desire is to have inner stability and peace of mind. So they fear being in conflict, tension, or discord. do not like feeling shut out or overlooked, losing connection with others. And it's like that personal piece. And then
They're like, can't we all just get along, guys?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right. And their weakness is sloth. 9s are known on the Enneagram, energy-wise, when you talk about like energy, 9s have the least amount of energy.
Hey, man.
And I
But that's why they
Take
like
it
are one of the
easy.
most wantable numbers. I mean, I kind of see the 9s
Desirable
as like
to be.
wantable.
wantable. But you're going to talk
One-
about that later,
I'm gonna
right?
talk
Come on
about
now.
it.
The one people desire to be the most, is that what you mean?
Yes,
Wantable?
exactly.
Yeah.
Wantable.
There's a reason it's at
You
the
guys know
top.
what I mean, right?
Circle.
It's getting late.
No.
Is it?
No, well, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, wait.
Depends on who
We're
you
okay.
ask.
Yes, it is.
We've held steady at 15s.
Yeah.
Core longing is your presence matters. 9s often feel like they are overlooked. And I identify as a 9, and it makes sense because you often you let, for the sake of peace in a relationship or in a situation, you step away from your desires.
Yeah.
And so then it's like you can get that feeling of being
Trampled
overlooked.
on.
Yep. And then 9s have this fog that's just unreal, but of being able to figure out what they do desire because they're constantly thinking about everyone else.
Similar to a 2.
Similar, yeah, maybe. A lot of people.
Maybe not in the people pleasing way. It's
No.
like a 2.
We'll get to you gotta always look at that motivation, but a lot of times people, Christian women go between the 9 and the 2. I think we've talked about that. But when you dive into the motivation, it helps, and you might see where you are.
What the difference
Core
is.
weakness is sloth, which is I said that because of that. But more talking about inner, like falling asleep to your own passions, your what you want, your desires, needs, because you merge with others.
Yeah.
Okay, so then 1 is the reformer. They have the core motivation is having integrity, being good, balanced, accurate, virtuous, and right. Their fear is of being wrong. Bad, evil, inappropriate, unredeemable, or corruptible. So they are sensible, ethical, responsible, idealistic, tend to be serious,
Type A.
self-disciplined. Yep.
That's how I remember. A and 1. When I hear type 1,
Yeah.
I'm like, type A. Personality.
Yeah, they're typically
More than likely. Yeah.
they really that's again the interesting thing, because don't look at their behavior. It's type A behavior. There's some other ones in here that have type A, I have to have it do it this way, but their motivation is a different.
Yeah, because
Okay.
So it
it
always
always
goes
comes
back
back.
to, which is why it's really important not to. I think it would be really challenging and interesting as far as like using it in a team approach, or like, I think it's great for getting to know people and understanding and having empathy, but then not doing the, oh, you did that, so that might, maybe you're
It's so hard not to do that.
It's so hard.
It's so, because you want to know.
Right.
Yes.
You want to try to guess at it.
orient yourself.
You want to box
Yeah.
people in.
So when
Yeah.
the way
At
it's
least
helped,
initially, to give you an idea. I don't know. I like to kind of be like,
Right.
a lot of times
Helps
the
me at the
guesses
beginning.
are wrong, because to get to that core, unless they say something like, I do this because XYZ, it can be really hard to get to it. When I know, if someone's told me, I'm like, you've told me you're an 8, and then I'm learning about it, I'm like, oh, now I understand why Kelly does blah, blah, blah. Like, I can get some more understanding. That's probably more meaningful than trying to guess.
just look at people's actions.
So it's, in and of itself, it's only helping you if you don't know anyone else's. So it's got some limits if no one else is like aware of it, but if
Right.
you know, if you get someone else in your house talking about it, then you might learn a little bit more about
Right.
someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
But
you can box people in if you start guessing or making assumptions about people.
yeah, yep,
So I mean, it's fun to guess,
yes,
but you want to be careful for making assumptions.
Yeah.
You know.
Better to ask questions.
So
right.
the-
Yes. Exactly.
yeah, that's a
Could
good way to do it.
it.
Right?
Do you tend to?
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you do this because of XYZ?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Very good idea.
That's really good. So their core longing is to be good, or no, they want to hear you are good, because they are not always. That's their fear.
This is number one.
This
so-
is number one.
Okay.
Yep.
Can someone comment if they also lost sound? Oh, never mind. Keep going.
Okay.
I got a bit.
Okay.
The 2 is the helper. We talked about a little bit. So 2, the core desire is to be appreciated, loved, and wanted. So, it's really that to really be loved, and so they do everything out of that. I mean, not everything, but that's their core motivation. And their fear is being rejected and unwanted, being thought worthless, needy, inconsequential, dispensable, or unworthy of love. So their core longing to hear is you are wanted and loved. Core weakness is pride, denying their own needs and emotions while using their amazing intuition to discover and focus on the emotions and needs of others, confidently inserting their helpful support in hopes that others will say how grateful they are for type 2's thoughtful care. So turning things into
The servant.
yeah,
They're the server.
Yes.
Absolutely.
they're
very
the,
much.
they are the servers. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. 3 are the achievers. Yeah, so it's interesting, just going back to 2, like it says people pleasing. And so you might think, I could see that with the 9, with the peacemaker, but peacemakers aren't trying to please you so you like me.
Right.
They're trying to save relationship.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Different
all under that
motivation.
core motivation.
Okay.
So, the achievers, number 3, success-oriented. Their core desire is having high status and respect, being admired, successful, and valuable. These are goal-oriented, accomplished. They usually excel at what they do. They can embellish the truth or be overly competitive, focused only on their own accomplishments. They measure themselves by external achievement and roles that they play. So their fear is being exposed or thought incompetent, inefficient, or worthless, failing to be or appear successful. Their weakness is deceit. And it's just an interesting one. It's deceiving themselves into believing that they are only the image they present to others. Embellishing the truth by putting on a polished persona for everyone, including themselves, to see and admire.
Is that like the imposter mindset?
Yeah,
Heard of,
I think I have.
so that's where you're in this role, you're doing something really, incredible. You're managing a team or something like that, but you don't feel like you've actually have made it there or have done all the steps you needed to take.
You're
to really
never
be
gonna
there.
get. I'm a
Right.
3.
Okay.
You'll never it's like you have high standards, so you just want to always, and it's about like what the last part that you said about like kind of the fear of the 3.
The fear.
It really resonates with me, but I took this one over and over and over because I didn't want to be the 3. So yeah, but
That is a really.
but it does really, after I sat with this, it really has resonated with me, and it's been a really great thing for me to look at, because yes, there's good things and there's things that I can grow in, and that's been really helpful, that area.
Yeah. And that's part of the
that's
awesome thing about these.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So
The part about the kind of the icky feeling of the Enneagram, or just the uncomfortableness,
like I don't want to be that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be that way.
Sure.
And thus, so the book that you could put in the comments that's just real general, gives you kind of a nice overview is The Road Back to You. And there's 2 authors. You quoted one of them in your intro. But in that book they say, like, the weaknesses are to kind of turn you to God for transformation. Sure. And for that, because if you don't know where your blind spots are, it helps you be like, okay, this is a struggle, and then to say, it's not I'm going to figure this out and make myself better, but I can then turn to God and say, hey, and ask for God to take over and do His work, and
to just even see those blind spots.
Yes,
you know, like,
because
and
if you are trying to figure out what type you are, it's very common for what you said. Yeah, it happened to me too.
To take it over.
To find the one that you really, one that hits you like, nope, I don't want to be that. Could very well be the one that you are.
Yeah, but
female 8s.
Well, maybe 8s and 3s should have a party.
Isn't it interesting though? Because that, like, to me, I'm like, oh, I could be a 3. I mean, an 8. Like,
right.
But man, when I kept hearing about the 9, I was like, that is the worst number.
Really? I always think they're so admirable.
I always think the 9s are the best.
I hear that.
Yeah. And then the 7s, but you'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I have actually heard an author say that, when you're taking, if you take the test thing, or you're looking at them all, that just kind of go back to the one that you're not sure about. And then also the other thing is, if you go over and over them and you can't find any, there's a very good chance you're a 9. Just saying. No, that has to be
of
that
your identity.
Exactly, and that you pull from
all of them.
And so I'm like, oh yeah, I got that. Oh 8, yep. Oh yeah, yep.
Right.
I can see it myself.
Right. Myself.
Oh man, so
that is funny.
That's just fun. Yeah, little funny things.
I can really see that for the 9s. Sorry.
It's awful.
Bit of a chameleon.
Yes.
Yeah. You asked me to bring my favorite coffee cup. I hate those questions.
Oh, I just was thinking, we didn't do that. Should we do it really quick? No?
How about I get through the numbers?
Let's get through the numbers.
Yeah. All right, we got to get through. What are we on? 4. 4. The individualist.
It's 9:20, so.
Okay.
But we still have 12 people hanging out with us.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So get that going. Individualists. Okay, these are the expressive. They tend to be the artistic, sensitive, creative, articulate. Their core desire is to be unique, special, and authentic. They really want to feel like there's no one like them.
Which is usually true.
Yeah. Yep.
They're pretty unique.
Yeah.
They fear being inadequate, emotionally cut off, plain, mundane, defective, or insignificant. So their core weakness is envy, feeling that they are tragically flawed or something foundational is missing inside them, and others possess qualities that they like. So it's not like envy of, oh, I like your sweater, I want that. It's more of,
I wish I was that
inner qualities and feeling like they will never be like that. So there's like this feeling of deficiency.
Right.
So their core longing is you are seen and loved. You want to hear that you are seen and loved for exactly who you are, special and unique. Type 5 is the investigator.
That's what I thought I was at the beginning.
Me too. Because I'm like, I like to investigate. I like to think.
Yeah. I wanted to be 5 too.
So the cool thing about the Enneagram is you can like dabble in all of them,
right?
Because the idea is that we are fluid in our personality, and we fluctuate and we pull from other ones too.
Well, and maybe when we don't, like when we're hearing the number that we are, we we tend to look at the weaknesses right
Yeah.
away versus like when I'm looking at all the other numbers,
Yeah.
when I'm looking at you, I'm
Yeah.
looking, oh, 9s, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
8, the strengths and the
Yeah.
different, you know, it's like, oh.
But you don't look at your own, like,
I don't
don't
look at
look
my
at-
own strengths.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
looked at like, oh,
Yeah.
really? You sound like a narcissist. Great. You know, like,
yeah.
not fun, but
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Yep.
keep going.
Okay, so 5's core desire is to be capable and competent. So they fear being annihilated. I don't think I've read this before. Okay.
Talk a little louder.
Okay. They fear being annihilated, invaded, or not existing. That's tough. Being thought incapable or ignorant, having obligations placed on them, or their energy depleted. Yeah, they have some energy issues. I was just learning about this, actually. So they are more perceptive, innovative. I'm just looking at some other terms. Because I don't know a lot about all the numbers, so I'm trying to give some ideas.
5's like information.
Yes,
They
that's
like
5's
to
like that.
read,
So,
they like to,
yes,
like just information for information's sake.
Yes.
Like even if it's not important, like tell me.
Yep.
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Do 5s like retain that information, I wonder?
I think so.
If they're
They're, like-
interested in it,
Okay.
for sure.
Because I do
Those
think that they
people
can
you want
come
like
across.
buy trivia games, and you're like, all right, what's the answer? 5.
Exactly.
And they know.
They can
That's
come
it.
across as intellectually arrogant.
Yes.
I see here.
Oh.
So that could kind of
Yes.
I can see that. So
Love
they're-
those guys on your, or
Yes.
people on
Yeah.
your trivia games.
Yeah.
Trivial
So
Pursuit.
good.
Yeah.
so it's just super interesting because they want to be capable, so that's where they go.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. So their weakness is avarice, which is an interesting word, but it means feeling that they lack inner resources and that too much interaction with others will lead to catastrophic depletion. Holding themselves from contact with the world, holding on to their resources and minimizing their needs. But it's all about like, this is how much I have and I don't think I have enough to share it all. So, yeah, that's
A
an
lot of
interesting.
Introverted, smart nerd people, I feel like.
I feel like I need
The
to
ones I know.
I need to meet one to have more of the okay, I'm understanding because it helps. I've listened to a lot of podcasts where they interview different types, and
Yeah.
it helps to just hear someone else's
Right.
story because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I can
Right.
understand
The
that.
people in my family or the people whose types I know way more about them than I've never met a whatever.
Yeah.
A 1 or 3, I think, are the ones missing from my small
Boop,
sphere. So,
Pick me.
yeah.
Okay, 6 is the Loyalist. We have 2 left. The Loyalist, core desire is having guidance, security, and support.
What number is this?
6.
6.
They are people who
Okay.
anticipate life's dangers. Safety is their thing. When healthy, they have faith, are courageous, loyal, and effective. When struggling, they are cowardly, hypervigilant, and paranoid. So their core fear is feeling fear itself, being without support, security, or guidance. So that's huge. And then it kind of makes sense. Their core weakness is anxiety, scanning the horizon of life and trying to predict and prevent negative outcomes. How are our 6 doing? 6 is doing in the pandemic. I don't know.
I feel like, what's the Inside Out movie?
Yeah,
There's the, whatever the character is that's like, what's that? Whoa, hey, oh, look out.
Fear.
that's fear.
Is it? Yeah.
That's fear.
That's what I think of with
Yeah.
6. They like structure, organization.
Yep,
Like,
all for safety. And I do know.
otherwise it's like, wait, what's going on?
Yep.
I don't, this isn't in the rules.
And because they long to hear you are safe and secure.
Yes.
And I do know a 6, and it's like it's been so helpful for her to say, like she knows, like a lot of her decisions she bases off of safety and stability. So it is really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, 7s.
Party!
Enthusiasts. Interesting that you can have this I'll talk about that. But they're not always the extroverts, but you can have and extroverts in every member, which is kind of,
Because I think of the enthusiasts being like the
Definitely.
life of the party.
They are the fun ones. They want the fun. Yep.
Yeah.
And we often plan the fun.
Or just
often
adventure,
do.
though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it's like, so the core desires to be happy, fully satisfied, and content. Their fear is being deprived, trapped in emotional pain. They tend to, like, not go to emotions. So if you're, there's a whole other aspect of Enneagram where you can talk about emotions, and you can learn about kind of that underlying. Their weakness is gluttony, because they can go
Too much.
and they always want more. And they long to be heard, you will be taken care of. And they just don't want to miss out on the fun. Yeah, but they often are like making the fun, or just or like to go to somewhere to have fun, or planning an adventure.
And
or
talking about
something.
like introverts and extroverts in every type. I think my brother's a 7. He's all over the place, but he likes to go on adventures, but by himself too.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
he takes train rides to
Both.
Portland just
Right.
for the experience of being on a train and meeting strangers.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not necessarily like a party activity.
Right.
They tend to be
But
go,
something
go,
new.
like always having
Yes.
to have something.
Yes.
Yeah. To look
That
forward
is
to.
they have to have something. They can't. It's hard for them to be still and to just be.
It's like that kid in class whose legs always going, and you're like, stop it, stop.
Right?
Yes.
Exactly.
So, like, the one thing I wanted to say too about, because that made me think of this, is like you might I identify as a 9. I could go meet another 9 and I'm like, whoa, we are so different.
Okay.
And so they describe it as colors. So like if 9 is the color blue, there's all these shades, right? So think that's another reason why it's hard to put someone in a box, because there's, you don't seem like a 7, like you don't plan any parties. I haven't been to any fun things with you, you know, like, I mean,
Right.
something like that where it can look different in so many ways. So there's a lot of variety to it, which I think is kind of fun about it, because it's just kind of a fun thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the
So
numbers.
it's 9:30.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we want to end up talking about how we can get along and appreciate each other. I do want to mention the one lady who had the question about if you do feel like an insider. I mean, when I was thinking about all these different topics, my thought kind of before mulling this all over and getting to this point was about how the church is viewed as really cliquey, and women in particular, like making other women feel bad or different or left out, and gossip too, but I didn't throw that in there, but that's something too that I kind of maybe feel convicted about. But somebody asked, if you don't feel like you're connected to women in the church and you don't fit anywhere, what can you do? You had some thoughts, I think. Did you say?
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking about a couple things.
About what I just said.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, my thoughts are, kind of just switch my thoughts.
Sorry.
Switch in my brain.
Well, I'll say my blurb first about
Okay, say your blurb.
how to break into a church circle.
Yep.
For me, it's always started with volunteering, because I think it's so hard. It's a new place. Like, it's not like we're in kindergarten where you're like, do you want to be my friend? You know, like, adults just don't do that. And so I don't even know how, if I went to a new church and didn't start volunteering, how would you even meet people? I don't even know, unless it was like you go to an event or things like that. But even still, you can show up at an event and not talk to anybody and leave. So for me, it's always started with volunteering. And it doesn't have to be like, you're a youth leader, you know, like my husband had never done any volunteering in church. And I was like, well, let's stand at the door and we'll greet people and hand out bulletins, you know? And so we got to see people, but who we got connected with was the other people on our team. So like at New Hope, if you're on the host team, they gather before service and meet and pray and go over, and you get to know those people. And so it kind of starts there, and then, oh, this is my friend so-and-so, and you meet people from there. And then a small group too, which is intimidating to walk into a group of people who have been meeting or know each other, but it's a good starting point from walking into church on Sunday and knowing nobody.
Right.
So that's my suggestion to
That was
answer
the
that
question.
person's question.
Sure.
Yeah, how do you break into a group of people if you don't know anybody?
Yeah, so I think that's good. I think I would say it's important to be part of the church. And I'm not talking New Hope or the
Right.
structure or Sunday morning, but to be in community with believers is vital.
Right.
And so if you catch that vision and you believe that, then you will find a way to do that. And
Right.
it can look so many different ways, but if you can find some way to step out and connect somehow.
Yeah. And like
And-
with groups, I've heard shared location or shared interests. So, like our small group was started because Bryce separated people by zip code, or like East Cambridge, West Cambridge, and we were the northern zip codes,
Yeah.
We were Stanchfield and you were Mora.
Yep.
And so we call ourselves the Northern Misfits, our group of however many four-ish families. And so, I don't know how we can figure that post in here, see
Right.
people near you, or shared interest.
Yeah, or just, and really it's, so I've read a couple books lately on just really pushing women to go deeper and to be all in for the church. And I've been really impressed by just like, even if you're an introvert, like you got to go out, you got to take the first step.
Yeah.
No one's going to necessarily come to you. Maybe someone is,
Yeah.
which is great. But I think the challenge is, can you take the first step? Can you ask someone to virtual coffee? Can you
Yeah.
even just real simple things? I mean, I would first say pray and say,
Yeah.
God's going to lead you and
I was gonna
guide
say
you,
that too.
and you don't have to check boxes of like, well, I'm not doing this, then it must not be,
Right.
I must not be a good Christian or something. But I do think that you have to take a risk, and you have to put yourself out there, and you may get doors slammed on you. You may totally get rejected, but that's okay.
Not.
I hope not too, but we are not perfect.
Well, in
Yeah.
I might be
relationships,
having a
there's
bad
always
day.
chance of rejection.
Yeah. And it's the church.
Well, and
we're
it's-
just great at hurting people.
Yeah. And Emily and I were talking before this too of like we might put ourselves in expectations of what other people think or what we think we need to be doing to connect with people. So to try to get outside of the box and to, to look at how God's created you. That's why we talk about these assessments. Can I read what I was going to read really quick before we have to end?
Yes.
And this kind of goes right into just into that, like, just because I think what holds us back sometimes is comparing ourselves, and I know you wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit, making sure that we're not comparing ourselves. These tools are really like to help us be better parents, to help us be better co-workers, to help us be, to see our strengths and our blind spots, and when we can see our blind spots, we can really thrive. And so I just want to read from Without Rival from Lisa Bevere. I haven't read the whole book yet, but I've always heard her talk. I've heard her talk about it on podcasts and really love it, especially when it comes to women and comparing themselves. So I'm reading from the first chapter. It says, Lisa says, "Our Father's marvelous love for us is infinite, intimate, and unique. You are uniquely loved because you were created uniquely. Unique means the sole example of prototype or only one. And my favorite definition, without equal or rival. Our Father God stands alone without rival, so we shouldn't be surprised that in his eyes we are daughters without rival, which eliminates every reason that we should ever compete with one another. You are the only example of you. You are the beginning and the end of you. There is not a designer sample scheduled for mass production, which is what we can do sometimes with these tests.
Yeah.
In his lineage, there are no copies or same or equal. There is no rival for the way you express his love to others or for how he expresses his love to you. No one can do you like you. God uniquely created your DNA and knit your frame in secret so he could surprise the world. So just, that really is God's heart. And then I just want to read from Romans 12, 5-6. It's the Message. It says, so since we find ourselves fashioned into all these excellently formed and marvelously functioning parts in Christ's body, let's just go ahead and be what we were made to be, without enviously or pridefully comparing ourselves with each other or trying to be something we aren't. So, she says, we're going to stop comparing ourselves with others because comparison is not inspiration. Comparison is cheating us and this earth of who we truly are. Where is the need for comparison or competition if our value and identity are ultimately tied to our innate uniqueness by God? And so this is what, as believers, this is our heart. That's why we turn to some of these tools and assessments, and I would just, say again to the person who reached out about, feeling like an outsider. It's like we're all unique and to take those steps and
that's good.
Do you want to say things?
Okay. Just soaking it. That was good.
Yeah.
I haven't read her, so I'm like, I like
maybe
that. I like
copy
that a
and
lot.
paste that into the comments.
No, it's good. There was a free sample I downloaded.
Nice.
The first 2 chapters on her website, but I would highly recommend the book. It wasn't very expensive at all.
A huge Audible.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll just listen.
I think
And I
that
do
one would
stuff
be
around
a
the
great
house.
Audible one. Actually, I think she reads it, and she's dynamic.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
Or coffee mugs.
Coffee mugs. Yeah,
You got
I'll
it.
post them there too. Right Now Media has a few videos by Flourish. It's a Canadian ladies. I knew it as soon as I pushed play. I was like, this has to be in Canada. Anyway, but I'll copy and paste this section from the Flourish thing that I enjoyed too, talking about diversity and don't surround yourself with people who are like you.
You would put something.
Yeah.
That's really
I'll post it.
good.
All right, so we're going to do coffee mugs. There are 6 of these discussions, and so I said to Brian, I was like, I have to buy a new coffee mug because I don't have 6. Anyway, so I used up my other one so far, but red is my favorite color, and I don't really decorate my house much with red because it's like, whoa, except at Christmas. So I like having things that are red, that just make me happy. So it's just plain red mug from Target. But you can watch the past episodes to see my other favorite mugs.
That's awesome.
But yours looks fancy.
This is my mug.
Lid.
It has the words on both sides. Yes. So, my kids got this for me at hospital gift shop. Actually, you might find really cool
Very
things
appropriate.
there.
Sometimes those are the best.
And
gift shops.
it says live with purpose, and then it has this cool cover, like ceramic,
Keep it hot.
to keep it a little hotter for a little longer, which
Yeah.
helps me. And it has Philippians 4:13 on it.
Oh.
So, and I was like,
Cool.
in the
That's
ring.
awesome.
So it's kind of fun.
Yay.
And I couldn't find the lid for the last 2 months.
I just found it this week, and I was so happy.
Perfect. That's funny.
2 months.
All right.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm
favorite
okay.
coffee mug. This is a handmade stoneware mug, handcrafted.
Mm-hmm.
I like pottery, so I
Oh,
grabbed this
yeah.
one. And then it's also Erickson Farmstead. So
Oh.
we got married there, and they
Yeah.
gifted me, the bride, this mug. So
That's
I was
fun.
excited in 2019. And shout out to people who have watched that movie. What is
Yeah.
it called again? The Listing?
On Hulu, it's called The Christmas in Farmstead, but everywhere else it's The Christmas Listing.
Mhm.
But yes, locally filmed
So
this
funny.
spring where Emily got married, so that's fun.
Really close.
They're not supporting this.
Yeah. I know. Why don't I should go out and ask for sponsorships.
Right?
We promote your movie.
Swipe up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you drink a lot of coffee. You said it was hard to figure out which mug to bring.
I can like barely close my coffee. I need to get another shelf going because I love them.
They make cool
Oh.
things for your wall
With
that are
racks.
like decorations / functional.
Yes,
Mhm.
I don't like clutter, so I probably wouldn't do that.
That's why I haven't bought one
Close
of
it
those.
all.
Yeah.
I have one with 3 hooks, so I have 3
Oh, there
mugs
you go.
hanging on mine. It's kind of like compromise.
And they'd have to be all the same color.
Wait, is that your
What
key
type
or
is
Jay?
that?
What is going on? Oh man. This is my favorite mug. It's my good friend made it for me. She's
cool.
growing in her pottery ability, so she
Yeah.
That's fun.
So Sue Redfield, I don't know saying people's names, but we have a lady here who has her own pottery studio and who
Oh,
pre-COVID had done like Bible study.
Oh yeah.
You know,
That's right.
small groups, but
I want to
we
come
can-
over and do
You should
pottery.
connect with her.
I don't
Oh, that'd
think
be
she
so
is
cool.
this year, but
I would love to know how to
she
pottery.
was
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
all kinds of art and,
Yeah.
and has led women's art groups. So
Mhm.
we'll connect you guys
Yeah.
too. But all right, well I think we're gonna close out in prayer. Yeah, and just want to mention if you have questions about anything, want to know anything, please find a way to contact the church, any social media, our website, nhccmn.org, and we would love to get you connected in any way. If you're feeling like you're not connected, we have one-on-one mentorships, we have small groups, we have, I would say to utilize this group. If you're watching right now in this group, post, I love pottery, does anyone else, or does anyone want to get together and whatever, use this group. That's like my joy when I see people, posting prayer requests and encouraging things. I'm like, yes, people, use it. That's what it's there for. So, I want to say that too. But all right, we'll close in prayer. Father God, thank you so much for this time together. I thank you for these women that are here that have shared their stories with us. I just pray that you would bless them as they go out back into their lives, whatever that they're doing, that you would just bless that. Have your hand on them. And we thank you for being so creative, that you have just designed us all so uniquely, such individuals. And I pray that you would just speak to us over this next week, that we are unique and we are loved, and just show us the way that you have created us, and help us grow in our relationship with you throughout the next week. And I want to pray too. We had a lady with a prayer request. You saw what that was, God, and you know what the situation is with the health concerns, and so we lift her up to you as well. In your name, amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us.